Hey, good Monday morning, and thanks for checking out your latest long-range forecast update. Michael Clark here with BAM Weather, and we're going to talk about the latest forecast here over the next couple of weeks. I'm not going to get too far into things today, just from a standpoint of, we're still just trying to really figure out ultimately where this pattern's going to go. I think I have a good idea, but let's get into the latest. We've talked about the last couple of weeks. We've talked about the idea of there being a wetter pattern, right? More rainfall. The idea that October would get wetter than what it had been in September. I mean, you look at the last 14 days, there's certainly been a credible amount of rainfall across portions of the northern plains, portions of Iowa, Missouri, into Illinois. And there has been some recently hit and miss rains finally come through across portions of central Indiana, Kentucky, and Michigan as well. So we have seen some rain, but it's just not been to the magnitude of what I honestly thought it would have been in terms of, kind of a flip, right? In terms of a much more active pattern. It's more active, but not as active, I guess, as I thought that it would be. This is a look this morning at our Clarity platform here, just taking a look at radar across the United States. And we do have some snow, even some thunder snow action going on across the Rockies out here into the west. A few scattered thunderstorms going on across Minnesota, and then far northern Michigan here, some rain. But you can all kind of see the rotation of the precip around the periphery of the ridge. It's pretty cool to see that in motion. Looking at rainfall just over the weekend, Clarity does a great job at letting us look at things very quickly, navigate, click, zoom, whatever the case may be. Some decent rain here this weekend over portions of Minneapolis, Minnesota, again in northern Wisconsin, but not much elsewhere here, as it's been very, very dry over the last couple of days here. Now we are going to watch another storm system, and this one's going to bring a rather big change, not only to temperatures, but also not only to some precip chances, but also certainly to temperatures, where I think many of us are looking at our first frost this season for sure. The front's going to come down Thursday into Friday into Saturday. It starts to swoop into the Great Lakes, and then it's really in here Saturday night into Sunday. In fact, really a piece of the tropospheric polar vortex gets dislodged into the Great Lakes, and I think that by Sunday, Monday morning, probably some really, really cold temperatures across the Great Lakes in the Northeast, and wouldn't be shocked to see some overperforming overnight lows as this strong early October cold front works in. That will somewhat subside here by midweek next week. Here's by day 10 next Wednesday. The front subsides. A little bit of mild air comes back. Watch from day 11 to 15. Watch the Pacific Trough. Watch the ridge, and watch everything start to jog backwards. It retrogrades. This is possibly the beginning of a pattern change. Okay? This is all the ensemble data blended together. You can kind of see that trough retrograde as I continue to play this positive P&A try to set up, this trough in the east develop. Generally, this would mean a cooler pattern transition for the second half of October, okay? And possibly a bit more active, but not extraordinarily wet, not extraordinarily active by any stretch, but maybe just a little bit more than what we've been used to, right? So that front, it is going to come through and bring some rainfall with it, some heavy rain across the deep south, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, portions of Arkansas. Here in the Ohio Valley, a general agreement, if you will, between the American and European products for half inch, maybe inch and a half of rain with this cold front passage. Again, we'll take anything we can get as this front does come through, okay? I tell you what, one other thing too, real quick, I just wanted to kind of show you guys is as the front passes, it is that time of year where we do want to start looking at wind, right? I think wind is important, and it can have an effect on things, especially on crop and things that may be starting to get weak as we get later into the season. We'll watch that front come through. Let me pull this up here, the latest run. And you can watch the wind come through with it. I don't know that it's going to be necessarily a huge problem by any means, but there can be some gusty winds Saturday, maybe perhaps gusting upwards of 30 miles per hour. The heaviest of the winds is going to come across the northern plains, the Dakotas, where you'll see some gusts, possibly locally up to 50 miles per hour Thursday afternoon. And then look here across Friday afternoon. This is a 35 to 45 mile per hour wind across the central portions of the ag belt. So again, with the colder air coming in, it's just something to consider. Some gusty winds. You still got the corn up. Keep an eye out on the crop there for that. Here's the low temperatures coming in. We see lows Tuesday morning still into the 70s. Here starts to come the front, right? Here's Wednesday morning, Thursday morning. Friday morning will be the first morning where there'll be frost in the far western third, a hard freeze across the western Dakotas and up into the Pacific North and West there. By Saturday morning, those temperatures are working east, and this is a blend of all of our weather models. This is a hard frost most likely for Iowa, for Nebraska, northern Kansas, Minnesota, Dakotas. Not so much abnormal there, but I think some areas that may be dealing with some abnormally earlier hard frost conditions could be possibly right in through this area here. All right, Iowa, Nebraska, northern Kansas, northern Missouri. Again, this is Saturday morning right now. As we go into Sunday morning, those temperatures bleed east. I think you're looking at more of a potential harder frost here as well. I know that the forecast models are into the upper 30s with the dry soils and just the overall setup of this front. This is a strong front. The piece of the TPVs coming in. Wouldn't be shocked to see a bit of a harder frost across the Ohio Valley Sunday morning. Okay, Saturday into Sunday. So we'll play that by ear. I wouldn't be shocked to see these temperatures trend colder, but this is along the lines with some of the early season frosts we've thought would have been in the cards for a while. You can see that cold really up into the Great Lakes in the north and east as well. It's a big deal for the Northeast as well, and up the East Coast for the wineries and all that stuff. So just something to keep in mind there. This is a look at the week 2 pattern. All right, again, you can see that we do have the trough in the east showing up. Again, though, as I mentioned, it's not an extraordinarily wet or active pattern. The overnight trends in the model data in the 6 to 10 and the 11 to 15 do show a little bit in terms of a wetter trend, if you will, especially in the 6 to 10 here across looking at the European data. The interesting thing here in the 11 to 15 is the American model products are pretty dry. The European is somewhat active in the Central Plains and the Midwest in the 11 to 15 day period. Again, I think we're just getting into a pattern where more precipitation, more storm chances are in the cards than what there has been. An excessively wet or a pattern where there's too much rain, I don't think is what we're necessarily dealing with at the moment. Okay. Here's the reason I mentioned too, I want to show you the trends from overnight model data, the cold front being stronger than currently modeled. Just the trend last night in the 6 to 10 day model, the changes. Again, a dramatically colder trend versus 12 hours ago. Again, I think as this front gets closer, it's possibly going to bring a little bit colder temperatures than perhaps what the actual data is saying. Your apps and things like that may get a little bit colder. So regardless, late week into the weekend, I think a lot of folks are looking at the first frost of the season, possibly a hard frost, all right, given the conditions of things. So we'll watch that, right? 11 to 15, we kind of get back into where the pattern's been. That's where my confidence gets a little shaky. I'm going to show you the last slide here, and this is just a look at the North Pacific pattern. What this tells me is really by mid to late month, all indications are in the Bering Sea and in East Asia is that we will start to see a pattern perhaps more dominated by a positive P&A and a trough in the east. And it's perhaps, I think, we're looking at more of a cooler / colder risk the end of October, and then as we get into November, possibly. Again, I say that with some shaky confidence right now, just because of some of our tropical forcing analogs say it could be warmer east. Some other indications say there's going to be a P&A and it'll be cooler east. Looking at the North Pacific pattern, East Asia, which has done well, it's difficult for me to go against the idea that we're probably really getting rid of overall this intense warmth, and we're going to change things up here late month. So that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, let us know. Thanks for logging on. We'll talk to you soon.